Okay, so let's continue with the coding of our SPSS file. And now we are approaching to the dependent and independent variables and another control that we have in there. Because we have the happiness questions in here. So the first question is, in general, I consider myself, and when they answer to the question, they have very happy or not very happy. So the higher, the better. So for example, this person seems to be highly ranked for happiness, also this person. And then this person in here is a bit low in how he or she considers us to be happy or not. But as you can see, and also if you remember from our lecture on quantitative study, we cannot ask only, or we cannot rely on only one question to assess their happiness. We need to ask more questions. And also all of these questions are based on previous literature. Like we didn't invent these questions. They are based from previous studies. So as you can see here, we have another question that is a bit similar. It's also about happiness. Compared to most of my peers, I consider myself happy or not happy. And then you have some people are generally happy. To what extent does this characterization describe you? And another question. We actually have 4 questions for happiness. So the first thing that I want to do is to write HA for happiness, HA1. HA2 will be the next one, HA3, and HA4. The next one is not about happiness, it's about motivation. So I will codify it. We also have, I think for motivation, we have actually five university motivation questions. So let's call it MO1, MO2, MO3, MO4, and MO5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And also we have other questions related to balance, the balance between your studies and your personal life. So this other variable, we will call it BA, as in balance, BA1, BA2, BA3, BA4, BA5. So as you can see, at this point, we don't need to do anything with these numbers because first of all, everything is in numbers, that's fine. And if you can see also, the scale is between 1 and 10. We are using the Likert scale of 1 and 10. You can use sometimes 1 to 5, 1 to 7, it depends, it's up to you. There are advantages and disadvantages you need to decide. But for here is 1 to 10, everything is in numbers, there are no strange things in here, so maybe we can move on. Maybe you are asking yourself, what are we going to do with so many questions? How are we going to address happiness? Yeah, the answer is that we need to calculate an average from all of this. We have 4 questions, so we need to calculate the average of the 4 answers, but we are going to do that in SPSS, not here in Excel, because we need to test for reliability before we do that. So let's wait on that. It's better if we just do it like this, and then in SPSS we do the calculation of the average. So answering to this first question, codify the original database. You don't need to write anything in your report. You can just write done, because what can you do? you cannot write anything from that. So when you are answering to this, when you are doing the lab, you don't have to do anything. But the next point is very important. The second point states the hypothesis relating university student happiness and motivation towards the university. So we need to state that hypothesis, and that's very, very important. So we are going to actually write something in here. Again, if you remember the quantitative lectures, we need to state a hypothesis that has at least or states a relationship between 2 concepts, and we need to assume if that relationship is going to be positive or negative. So we already have the 2 concepts, university student happiness and motivation towards the university. And we need to state if it's going to be positive or negative. So let's start writing it. And remember also from the quantitative lecture, there is no like a single way of stating a hypothesis. There are many different ways, but I will try to give you the simplest one, and then maybe you can experiment a bit. So let's go with I will write like this. There is, and you can write H1 as hypothesis 1. There is Uh, we can start like this. As I said, there are many ways of writing the hypothesis, but we can start right away with the sign. What do you think is going to happen between university student happiness and motivation? Ideally, here we are doing something not not the best practice, because ideally you need to read and you need to understand what theory assumes and what theory thinks, and based on that, then you propose the relationship. Here we are going to jump that part of reading. You should not do it, but we are going to jump that, and we are going to assume that the relationship is positive. It sounds a bit logic that if you are motivated, you will be happier. So let's assume there is a positive relationship between university student happiness and motivation towards the university. And that's fine. So this is just for the lab, because remember, when you write your thesis, you need to have like at least one page discussing everything that the literature knows, and then this hypothesis is kind of the conclusion of that. So all of these papers discuss motivation and happiness in different contexts. So then you assume that, and you want to test if there is a positive relationship between university student happiness and motivation. Also, maybe another important learning from here, we cannot say that the motivation causes happiness, because we cannot test for causation. We can only test if there is a relationship or not. So try not to use the word cause, and try not to write this causes this. In this study design, we cannot test for causation because we don't have like over time observations. If you want to test if something causes something, you need to also take a look at time. You need to check if the effect persists, and if there are changes in one variable over time, it also affects the other one over time. So for this design, we cannot test for causation, so be careful. So I think we can stop in here, because the next step is to capture the data in SPSS. And that, I think I will start a new video. And then from that is all about the analysis. So I will stop this video here, and then we move on to SPSS.